She had not chosen the Grand Hyatt bar deliberately. This was what she told herself on the way there, in the taxi, watching the city move past the windows. She had finished an 11-hour day. She had wanted a drink somewhere that was not her hotel room. The Grand Hyatt bar was close, familiar, and served a burgundy she had identified on her second day in Seoul as the best available option within reasonable distance of her current life. These were all true things. She ordered the wine. She did not open the notebook. She looked at the bar, the same stools, the same sightlines she had cataloged 6 weeks ago for entirely different reasons. And she did not think about who else might have reason to return to it. She was not off duty. She was never entirely off duty. But the notebook was closed and the wine was good, and for 40 minutes she sat with both of those things and let the day recede to a manageable distance. Then, the weight of the room changed. She knew, before she looked, who had just walked in. He said, "Good evening." She said, "Good evening." Neither of them said, "What a coincidence." The bartender brought him a whiskey, a different whiskey than the one he had been drinking the first time she had seen him in this bar. She noted this. She did not note it out loud. He said, "You're not working." She said, "I'm always working. I've just closed the notebook." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "What's the difference?" She considered this with the seriousness it deserved. She said, "The notebook is where I put what I've already understood. The open notebook means I'm processing. The closed notebook means I'm still observing. I just haven't decided what it means yet." He looked at her. He said, "So, you're observing now." She said, "I'm always observing." She picked up her wine. He asked about her work. Not the way people asked about her work at dinners, the polite inquiry, the expected answer, the pivot to something else. He asked the way someone asks when they have already read the file and want to know what the file didn't capture. She noticed this. She decided to answer honestly. She said, "Most people think organizational culture is about values, stated values, posted values, the words on the wall in the lobby. But values are aspirational. Culture is behavioral. Culture is what the organization actually does, how it treats the person who tells the truth, how it handles the person who fails, what it rewards when no one is formally watching." She said, reading an organization's culture is like reading music by watching people's faces while they listen. You can't hear the music, but you can see exactly what it's doing to them. The micro expressions, the muscle memory, the things they do automatically that they've long since stopped registering as choices. That's where the organization actually lives. He was quiet for a long time after she said this. Not the silence of someone who has nothing to say. The silence of someone reorganizing something. He said, "You read what people don't choose to show you." She said, "Everyone shows you everything. Most people just aren't looking." He said, very quietly, "What do you see when you look at this room?" She looked at the room. She looked at him. She said, "I see a man who has spent a long time being very careful about what he lets people see, sitting in a bar he didn't come to by accident, asking a woman questions he already knows some of the answers to." The silence that followed was the most honest silence of the evening. She asked what he did. It was a simple question, the kind that passed between strangers in bars every evening in every city in the world, between two people who were not strangers and were not in the habit of simple questions. It landed with the weight of a chess move. He said, "I manage assets." She said, "What kind?" He said, "The kind that require careful handling, things of significant value that exist in complicated environments. The work is mostly about understanding risk, where it actually lives, versus Where people think it lives. She looked at him for a moment. She said, "That's true." He said, "It's true." She said, "It's also not everything." He said, "No." She said, "That's fine." And she meant it. She was not a person who required complete information before continuing a conversation. She was a person who required accurate information about what was being given and what was being withheld. He had given her both. He had told her a partial truth and told her implicitly and with honesty that it was partial. In her experience, that was rarer than people understood. She picked up her wine. He picked up his whiskey. They sat with that for a moment. He did not tell her who he was. She did not tell him she had saved him. They were in this way perfectly matched, two people sitting inside the same secret from opposite sides of it, each withholding the thing that would have made the other's withheld thing make sense. He knew her name. He knew her work, her history, her connection to a network he was still mapping. He did not know that she was the woman from that night, the jaw, the shoulder, the tattooed spine, because the fragments Sung Mwang had assembled had never become a face. She did not know that the man across the table was the one whose glass she had moved 3 weeks before she arrived at Hanryo. She did not know about the note on his wall. She did not know he had read her handwriting 4 times. What she did know, he was not what he had said. He was more than that, and different from that, and he had chosen to give her the shape of an answer rather than the answer itself, and she had chosen to accept the shape. What he did know, she saw things. She had told him what she saw in this room, what she saw in him, with the calm specificity of someone who had been right about people for long enough that she no longer needed to qualify it. She was not performing perceptiveness. She simply perceived. He thought for a moment about the note card on his wall. Your security detail requires significant retraining. He thought about what it would mean if she knew. He thought about what it would mean if she already did. He saw it. The edge of it. Just the edge. Just enough. Dark ink in a script he did not recognize, which in his experience meant it was either ancient or obscure or both, old enough to be part of her rather than something she had acquired. It sat at the base of her neck and disappeared below the line of her dress, with the quality of something that continued. He did not ask. He almost asked. The question formed, not in words exactly, but as an intention, a direction, and he pulled it back. Because asking would mean he had been looking, and looking would mean the thing he was looking at had mattered enough to look at, and he was not, in this bar on this evening, prepared to declare that. Not yet. She almost noticed him noticing. She did notice. She said nothing. She picked up her wine. She asked him something about soul, a neutral question, a change of current, and he answered, and they moved on, and neither of them acknowledged what had just passed between them in the space where a question almost lived. The tattoo would remain unasked about for the rest of the evening. They both knew it was there. They had talked for 47 minutes. About organizational culture and the difference between stated values and actual ones. About soul in a different season. He had been here in winter once, he said, and the city felt entirely different in snow. About a particular kind of loneliness that attended serious work in foreign cities, which she had raised obliquely and he had met directly, with the quiet acknowledgement of someone who understood what she was describing from the inside. About nothing touched the thing between them. About everything that was adjacent to it. Neither of them counted the minutes while they were in them. She counted afterward, in the elevator. She did not know why she counted. She counted anyway. He counted in the car. Sung-hyun, in the front seat, noted the silence and asked no questions. 47 minutes. It was not very long. It was the longest conversation either of them had had in recent memory that had not been about work or strategy or the management of a situation. It had been about what it was. That was new. She left first. Not discuss this. There had been no negotiation, no awkwardness about who was leaving when. She had picked up her coat and said goodnight, and he had said goodnight, and that had been that. She walked through the bar without hurrying. She did not look back. She wanted to look back. This was information she received with the same equanimity she brought to most information. Noted, filed, not acted on. She went through the door. He sat for 2 minutes. This was not indecision. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was giving the space between her departure and his, the quality of something deliberate, because the alternative, leaving immediately, as if her leaving had been a signal, was something he was not prepared to do. He put down his glass. He stood. He walked through the bar. He did not look back. He wanted to. He did not tell her who he was. She did not tell him she had saved him. Between those two withheld things was 47 minutes of something that had no name yet in either of their private languages, not because they lacked the words, but because naming it would have required acknowledging it, and acknowledging it would have required deciding what to do about it, and neither of them was ready for that. Not yet. She counted the minutes in the elevator. He counted them in the car. They arrived at the same number. That too would have told them something if either of them had known the other was counting. Whiskey and War, Season 1, Episode 6, Neutral Ground. Episode 7 is the Indian Nation, and it takes you to New Orleans, to the Delacroix family, to the suit that takes a year to make and is worn once, and to one word written in an ancient script on a young woman's spine that explains everything about Sienna Delacroix that soul cannot. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Subscribe to Dark Magnolia Stories. Stay close.